Okay, I think people in, so I'll hand over to Christian to get started.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you, Greg. I hope you can hear me well. So my name is Christian Heidkamp, and I'm very pleased to be joined today by Greg Chairman, Vice President of Solutions and Service at Kelverion. And we will be talking about how to elevate your IT infrastructure monitoring and automation with Microsoft System Center. So System Center is really in the core of today's webinar here. So, and I hope that you all really are using System Center and encouraged to use. So we also do have a poll to get a bit of a better understanding later on from you what you're using. We will really talk about two pieces. This is System Center Operations Manager and System Center Orchestrator, and how those integrate and how they can be extended. So basically, we prepared really a very nice agenda today. So we'll actually starting with a short introduction to talk a bit about who we are, what we do basically, and then about really like expanding beyond monitoring horizons with automation. And Greg has really prepared a wonderful, I think I call it magic demo in the background. And we'll look into that and see how the magic works there. It's really like a closed loop event management we're looking at. Then we talk about automated diagnostic and remediation also in that part, and give this a wrap at the end. So please note the session is being recorded. So I also welcome for those who listen to the recording here later on. So thank you very much for being part of this. And if you have questions, we have a question and a system here integrated. So we'll have a Q&A session at the end. So we'll keep our questions and get them answers at the end. So looking very much forward to your questions. So please make use of that. All right, Greg, anything you want to add to the agenda introduction?
No, thank you, Christian. I think it's just welcome everybody, and thank you for joining this session as we talk about automation and monitoring working in harmony.
Great, perfect. Let's get started a bit and talk about NiCE. So I know we have a joint customer base from NiCE and Kelverion Customs here. So I really talk for those who are not so much familiar with our company at this point. So we have basically been working since many years already in the area of monitoring software. So and we building the software really from scratch. We are really focusing on integrations, what we call management packs and SCOM. So that's our core business. And we're doing this for many years. We have a development location here in Germany, and we also have a sister company in the United States where we have staff sitting at the West Coast in California and East Coast Virginia. And then basically covering basically the globe of our global customer reach. So because we have customs in US and Europe, Asia, Africa, like really a lot of countries. So myself, I'm today located in sunny Germany. We have nice sun outside, although we still February, right? So it's the 29th of February, a very special day. We've got that only every 4 years. So, and luckily IT systems are working here. So, and yeah, also operations up, and we do have contacts in US and EMEA. Quick note on the right side, you see our technology partners. So when we develop a software and integration, I will talk in a moment about, we do have technology contacts there. So we are Microsoft partners since, well, I think 20 years now. But we also partner with Oracle, IBM, Micro Focus, VMware, ACL, and a couple of smaller ones as well. So I didn't put on here. It's just like when we develop a software to integrate with System Center, we do this properly and also certify the solution. So for example, the VMware solution we talk about is certified with VMware. So just to make sure that we don't do anything wrong there. So just to give you a short overview, we have a couple of integration System Center Operations Manager, and we do this purely for the sense to fill a gap. If Microsoft would offer VMware monitoring in SCOM, we wouldn't need to do that, right? And we come basically from a Unix background, so that explains a bit the bottom of this here, like the HCL, the Power System, Power HA, Linux, and those types of things. So that's where we come from. So originally, the company was built around monitoring products that were really only hosted on Linux and Unix system. And really what helps us today is that Microsoft is embracing Linux even more than ever before. So over half of the VMs on Azure run actually on Linux. So we get requests basically daily on helping to monitor Linux. And that also is not only in the traditional SCOM, but also for Azure. So we do workforce requests that run either Azure Monitor or the SCOM managed instance, which is basically the SCOM deployment within Azure to connect, like for example, IBM Power System, Linux systems within the SCOM managed instance on Azure. And on top, well, you have a server basically to run your applications, Oracle, DB2, Mongo, other databases as well. And that's where we then provide the application management packs for. There's one more thing here at the top. It's the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So we have started long before Microsoft actually released a management pack for that. And we have a different approach, and I might touch that on one or other point in the demo later, is like we do an active monitoring because we think Microsoft should not monitor its own system because you know, if Teams is down, you want to know it right now. You want to know the problem that is happening right now, if it's your problem, if it's Microsoft problem. And that's why we think there's always an advantage to have a monitoring solution from a third party to do that. Well, that's a short overview, and I will touch base on the different solutions a bit later in the demo. But now I'd like to hand over to Greg and give a short overview of Kelverion as well. Please, Greg.
Oh, yes, thank you, Christian. So welcome, everybody. So yeah, for those who are not familiar with Kelverion, we are Microsoft automation experts. So we have been around since 2010, although a number of us have been using Microsoft automation platforms prior to that. I worked for Microsoft helping them with Orchestrator, which was an acquisition they made of a company called Aparlis, and I actually used to work for Aparlis as well. So I've been doing automation for a little over 20 years now. And at Kelverion, we specialize in Orchestrator. We also work with Azure automation, the automation in the cloud, Power Apps, and Power Automate, and Logic Apps, helping customers automate all of their processes and procedures, both on-premise and in the cloud, and then obviously in the enterprise and application integration with Power Automate and Logic Apps. Much like, or exactly like NiCE, we have a global customer reach from the US, Europe, Asia Pac, right across to Australia. So the whole reach. We have, we're a US registered companies. We have operations in the US. We have a big team in the UK covering our EMEA region, and we've got development teams in Canada. So we're equally located to support customers around the world. And like NiCE, we also have strategic development partnerships with many companies. So we are Microsoft partners. We are certified partners with ServiceNow. So our integrations into ServiceNow have been validated and approved by ServiceNow. Same with BMC, EasyVista, and Cisco. And what Kelverion offer is expertise around the tools, but we also build integrations to extend the reach of Orchestrate into other products. And you know, if we go to the next slide, Christian, we can actually see the we've got a very similar coverage of integrations as NiCE have with their management packs. So around helping automate things in Office 365, Azure, Entra ID, Exchange, VMware. So we build integration packs to automate VMware provisioning and management, because Microsoft used to produce things for Orchestrator, but they stopped that development back in 2016. So their integration only supports VMware 5.5. We're currently supporting out to VMware 8 and onwards. And then we have many integrations into service desks so that you can tie in your integration and Orchestrator capabilities and your operations manager and system center into your service desks for instant creation, which is what we're going to talk about more with our solutions.
Great. I gave you control of the mouse, so you should just be able to go ahead and
Okay.
dive right into the orchestrator part.
Okay. So yeah, for those of you who are not familiar with Orchestrator, particularly if you come from an operations manager background, you might not come across Orchestrator. So where does it fit within the wider scheme? Well, you've got your infrastructure, and we are all used to having operations manager for monitoring and managing that infrastructure. You might well have system center configuration manager in there for patching and deployment. Microsoft have Virtual Machine Manager for managing their Hyper-V, and also you can manage your VMware infrastructure from that platform. Everything in Microsoft, as we're all familiar, is tied into Active Directory for authentication and management and similar. Microsoft have their own service desk product, System Center Service Manager, and the challenge that Microsoft had was how do they actually make these System Center products interact and work together to actually make your processes easier to run and operate rather than having to have human beings passing work around. And that is where they overlaid System Center Orchestrator to allow them to integrate the different tools from the Microsoft estate. So you could take an alert from Operations Manager, pick it up into Orchestrator, and then go and create tickets in Service Manager, and then have that go and do some remediation and maybe go and do things with the virtual machine, tie in with SCCM and similar for patching and other things that might be in the issues. That was fine for the System Center estate and making those bits working, and Microsoft manages those. And what Kelverion have brought in is that we actually have brought in capabilities to extend it out to other tools, because System Center doesn't exist in your data center on its own. What it needed to do was integrate to the wider enterprise management set that you had. And actually, over the years, what we're finding is the customers have moved things, so they're now integrating the wider data center back into System Center. So System Center has become key to the business rather than more of a peripheral that was just used for Windows. It's now certainly Operations Manager is becoming more and more of a manager of managers for all of the things and the central point. So we can use Orchestrator to integrate back into the platform. And when you want to go beyond monitoring and infrastructure, then you might want to start providing requests where people can automate and request things like, I would like a new virtual machine, I want to go and add users to groups, I want to provision software. So you need some form of self-service front end. You can use a service desk, but that takes a lot of time and effort to build and develop, because you're reliant on your service desk teams to be available and have the skills to go and build that. So we also have a lightweight automation portal. So that is a HTML5 web application where you can actually quickly build and offer service requests out to your users to actually configure and set up offerings, so they can go and request things, which automation will automatically go and fulfill. So that's where Orchestrator fits within the wider state. But how does it actually work with Operations Manager in an automated incident and management type approach? So this is a logical view of how things happen. What you have in Orchestrator is things called integration packs. So these provide the connectivity out to other enterprise management tools. So there is an integration pack for SCOM, which we can then use the native API for SCOM, their SDK, to allow us to pick up alerts from Operations Manager, and then we can use that to write results back into Operations Manager. We've got automation that performs actions and tasks called runbooks that actually run and pick, so they'll pick up on those alerts, they'll process them, and then in the case of for example, in our demo, we're going to use an integration pack into ServiceNow to actually take those alerts and automate the creation of a ServiceNow incident ticket, and then return that incident ticket number back into Operations Manager. So that's how the platform actually works, is you have integrations that exist in Orchestrator to allow you to communicate and interact with those different tools, and then runbooks that perform that linkage. And there is also a management pack in Operations Manager for managing Orchestrator, which Christian can tell you more about what it can do.
Well, yes, thanks, Greg. Let me just chip in there for the Scorch management pack you see here at the bottom. So it's you have to dig a bit around until you find it, but it is there. So and it's not rocket science, to be honest, right? So it's basically a management pack to ensure that your system center orchestrator environment is up and running and working well. So so that's basically it. It looks at the services, the event logs, and some policies. So we can look at later at that. I deployed it in our demo environment as well, so we can have a quick look at that. But it is handy. It's there. It's free. Right? You can deploy it if you have both, and it really gives you some helpful information if your Scorch environment is up and running healthy. So it's nothing more than that. So it can be extended, but it really makes sure the integration is working well from that end as well. So yeah, that's on the Scorch management pack. So back to you.
Okay, thank you. So as I say, Kelverion have got integrations to lots of other integration platforms. So here's a quick view of what we can integrate to, both into third-party applications, and then we also have integration packs to enhance and simplify the functionality. So tying into things like SQL databases and Oracle, and doing simplified things like text manipulation and other bits and pieces. And our orchestrator components work both with the historic system center products. So we've been around since Orchestrator 2012 right through until 2019, and then we have actually moved. There is a new version of Orchestrator called Orchestrator 2022, and we have migrated our runbooks to this new platform. And what's new for those of you who may have had some experience with Orchestrator but not looked at Orchestrator 2022, the big difference in 2022 is the first release of Orchestrator, which is a 64-bit application. All the previous releases have been 32-bit applications, which meant that when you're trying to run functions, you had difficulties because a lot of the commandlets and functions that you're using have been 64-bit for a long time. So the standout function is that with that 64-bit capability, it's now much more secure because it ties into all of the new modern 64-bit DLLs, SQL drivers, the latest .NET frameworks. It ties into the modern security components of the system of the Windows Server operating system. Which are currently now being, constantly tested and enhanced, which Orchestrator now benefits from because it's now out of that legacy 32-bit environment. And with 2022, it now extends the support of Orchestrator out till 2032. So there's a lot of longevity with that platform. They've implemented a new web console, a new web service. But the key thing is with that 64-bit application is that one of the functions that you'll want to do within your automation is tie in with PowerShell and running PowerShell scripts. A lot of those PowerShell modules and functions have been 64-bit for a few years, so it was difficult in older versions of Orchestrator to interact with those. Now it's all native functionality because they're running native 64-bit, so it's easy to tie into Active Directory and Exchange and Office 365 and Azure from within your Orchestrator platform. So those are the key things that have changed with this new Orchestrator 2022 application and tie in with the rest of the 2022 suite.
Well, thank you. Great. That looks really good, Greg. And I heard already on the grapevine basically that there's going to be a next version of System Center. Microsoft is working on that behind the scenes. So I understand that we have with this 2022 already extended support, I think, until it's typically 10 years, right? 2032, right? So
yes, absolutely.
I'm gonna get a couple of years older by then. So right, so that is going to be like a long-term support. So that's like really the 10-year support range you have. And if there's a new version coming out probably next year, then that will add another 10 years. So it is not something that is going to go away. So although it's been often said, but on the SCOM side, it's really been moved with to SCOM managed instance, where we get like releases every month. In fact, if this is a good thing or not, that's a different discussion. But there is active development taking place. Great. I think we've got a poll, right, Greg?
Yes, that's the next thing. So we were actually going to make this interactive and ask you about what you using in the system center state. So if you bear with me a second, I will get the poll. What will happen? It will pop up and allow you to actually launch into and answer questions. So if I launch the poll, so you'll see that the poll has been opened and you can click the different boxes that you use in your system center. So we'll have that poll open for a little bit and let people start voting.
Yeah, sure. So we'll share the results back. So this is anonymous, so you can just like put your points in there. So not sure if you can do select multiple actually, but I hope so. Can you?
Yes, you can. Yes,
because I can fill the poll, so I can manipulate it. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Great. So
you can. So you'll be pleased to know so far everybody uses Operations Manager. And very prominent, 82% so far also use Orchestrator. So looking very good.
Yeah. So what is the ones you've been in touch with as well? Like for me, for example, I haven't done much with the config manager. It's like a bit separate for me, but the other ones, yeah.
Yeah, I have I've touched all of them. So we have obviously we're looking at what we do with Operations Manager. We also have automated patching with SCCM. So I've got quite a lot of experience with SCCM. We've provisioned virtual machines through Virtual Machine Manager. So done stuff with it. Less familiar with Virtual Machine Manager, I have to admit, and Service Manager. I did quite a lot at Microsoft on Service Manager.
That's good to know.
But I haven't done a lot in a little while. But yes, so from the system
right
center,
now we have over 30% of people using Service Manager on this call, right?
Yes.
So it's really using. I know that some others are also here in Germany. They're quite large deployments, and to be honest, it's the return on investment if you deploy all of this is phenomenal, I'd say, right? Because it is because you get like I think one license includes all of it still. So
that's it. Yep.
So that's like we do dog food. Basically, we use Virtual Machine Manager for our deployments here internally. We haven't used Service Manager, but our Scorch is there, Operations Manager. Well, the Config Manager is a bit aside. So I think we're good to share the results back.
Yes. Yep. I'm going to close the poll now because it looks like everybody has voted who is going to vote. Okay. So if I hit the share button now, so there we are. You can see the results.
Yep. It's like SCOM and then we'll Scorch, like great. Like we've got the people on here. So again, this is eventually some motivation to ask some questions. We're doing this all day long, right? Remember? So, and we have a whole team. So maybe I can share this a bit. We had NiCE, we have like 10 people like just doing full-time SCOM, right? So there are a few things we haven't seen. Like it's amazing what comes up sometimes, like really weird things, and sometimes we feel like Microsoft support, but yeah, that's also what we do sometimes there.
Funny, we do the same with Orchestrator.
Okay, great. Let's go back to the slides and let me go next. So I think you still have control. I think
I do. Yes.
Okay, good. So let's look at the closed loop event map.
Yep. So what Christian and I wanted to talk you through was actually understanding how Operations Manager and Orchestrator can work together to give you that end-to-end view of the managing and monitoring. So what we're looking at in this scenario is, there we go. So what we've got Operations Manager monitoring your state, and what we can have is Orchestrator watching Operations Manager for new alerts. And when that alert comes, what we can do is we can build rules within Orchestrator, which allows us to look at the alert, and you can build rules for saying, I want you to create an incident ticket in my service desk, but I want you to assign the correct support team for resolution of this ticket based on the alert. So the SQL team asked me to monitor this alert for them. Therefore, when we create a ticket in the service desk, it should go to the SQL team. Or this is a MongoDB error, well, therefore it should go to the Mong team to go and support, because it's not a Windows thing, don't want to deal with it. It's let them go and have a look at it. Equally with SAP and Oracle and anything else that you're monitoring, VMware alerts, send them to the VMware team to deal with specifically, so we can tie in and look at those rules. What Orchestrator will then do is it will create the incident ticket in your service desk and return, and then as part of that closed loop, picks up that incident ticket and returns it back into Operations Manager, so that we can actually give you that end-to-end view, so that you can see an alert come in, ticket gets automatically created, updated into Operations Manager, so that you can then manage and actually deal with your process the way you want to. So if your business process says you've got to go and work in the service desk, then you can run all of your processes from within your service desk. If you are happier working within operations and from a monitoring point of view, then the automation will ensure the incident ticket's been created to meet all of the processes that your business has defined, but then you can go and start doing your diagnostics and remediation locally. And then when you fixed it, Operations Manager will detect the alert's been resolved. When that happens, Orchestrator gets notified that the alert's been closed, so we'll monitor Operations Manager and pick up that alert as closed. We'll then go back into the service desk and mark that incident ticket as resolved. So you've got that complete closed loop process of alert being detected, create the incident ticket, assign it to the right team, and update Operations Manager, so you know you've got an incident ticket number. You can then go and resolve it however your business process happens today, whether that's a human being working out of incident tickets that have been raised in your service desk, or whether you're managing and doing things from your network operations through Center through Operations Manager. However you get notified as a human being, you can go and resolve it, and when it's been resolved, Operations Manager will pick that up, know the result's been resolved, and then it can go through and we'll pick that up and resolve the incident ticket. So you get that whole closed loop process of, we know an alert's been created, ticket exists, workers issue's been resolved, ticket gets resolved automatically. So you don't have to worry about that process, you just need to do the resolution. But you can then take it another stage. If we've got automation actually picking up the tickets and raising tickets and doing that ticket analysis, well, the next part of the process is, why have a human being run the diagnostics and remediation steps? Because for a given alert, you will know what diagnostics you want. If you're monitoring it, you know how to fix the issue. So what we do is we do the same thing, pick up that alert, look at the rules to work out where the ticket's got to go, create the ticket, assign it to Operations Manager, but now we can do an extra step. We can use the rules that said where the ticket was to also define how do we go and automatically resolve this issue. So what diagnostics do you need? Do you need to know about the event log messages from the last 5 minutes? Do you want to know what the net stat information is? Can you ping the box? Do you want to check that the services have actually stopped? And Orchestrator will run those diagnostics and steps and update the incident ticket with the results. We can even push the results back into Operations Manager. We'll then run the remediation steps automatically and update that incident ticket again with the results of how we've remediated it and push that back into Operations Manager as well. So what you've got there is that ticket's been created and then the automation has already fired and started doing the diagnostics and remediating the issues. As soon as it's fixed, Operations Manager will detect the alert's been resolved, and when it's resolved, the process that we had before kicks through of Orchestrator picking it up and going back into the service desk and marking that incident ticket resolved. What we've done in this process is you had the closed loop, and we've now removed the need for human beings to fix the basic products. issues that are coming in. And in many operations teams, most of your time is spent resolving key common issues that get reported. Services stop working, virtual machines stop, database needs re-indexing, you're running out of disk space on a particular server. All of these things are common issues that occur that don't need a lot of human expertise to go and resolve. So we build processes where the automation can resolve them. And then you can free people up to actually work on the stuff that is more critical, rather than fighting the fires of restarting things every day or every couple of days. You can now actually step back and go, why does this machine keep failing every 2 weeks? So you can do problem resolution rather than dealing with the incident resolution. And what Christian and I are now going to go and look at is actually show you how all of this works. So if we want to go on to the demo.
So, right.
Demo time.
Okay, demo time, right. So Greg and I met a couple of times to prepare this demo. So we got the theory now, and actually, let's see how this works in action. Okay. All right, so we have seen the poll. Everybody's using System Center Operations Manager, and that's basically where we start here. So in the System Center Operations Manager, we have deployed the NiCE VMware Management Pack. And the first scenario we'll talk about is actually a real use case on VMware. So for those who are familiar with VMware, we have like the vCenter basically in the vSphere environment. We have the vCenter, which coordinates like all the ESXi hosts, the VMs, and everything. And it's an admin tool. It's not really a monitoring tool. It has a monitoring feature, but it's really for configuration and administration. So if something breaks, you can actually go in there and fix it. So but again, it's not a tool. It's the tool of the VMware admins. And what I'm going to do is basically simulate that a VM completely goes away, crashes, basically is broken. So, and I'm not just doing that for one, but for two. Basically, I'm going to take one and do a hard shutdown that basically is like simulating a complete crash where one completely goes offline. So one of the, and I'll do that for a second one as well. So I'm just gonna power this off. So it just like gives me a warning. I ignore the warning and just taking offline. So now we see the one is like just literally pulling the plug on those. So it can be a blue screen crash or whatever. And obviously this is a thing that might happen on any application. We know it's either on a Windows system or Linux system. There might be an impact in any case, or it's stopped now. So what I created on the SCOM side is actually a monitoring rule, or this is part of the standard package. Basically, it can monitor for VMs that should be running but are basically off. So, and we actually see that that we already got an alert in here. So that's just came in like a minute ago. It's like the virtual machine power state is giving an alert. We see the power state is off, so the machine is powered off. Basically, we might not have that alert for all machines. That basically why I created a grouping, and this grouping I placed all the VMs in there that I defined as running. So all VMs that must be running are basically as object in this group, and if one of them like goes down, like then we get this alert. It's already gone. What happened? And I think that's already where the magic comes in. So if I look back now to the virtual center, they're all back, both are back running already. So so that's basically is already the closed incident loop. So basically what already happened in the background, Greg will explain you in a moment on his side. Basically, I as an operations manager person, I wasn't really had anything. I didn't have anything to do. Basically, I even didn't have to call the VMware person. It basically restarted it because it was supposed to be running, and in the background, the remediation flow on the SCORCH side took care of that. So we quickly looked at the close events, basically. let's see, we have the closed events here. Yeah, here, so they get the ticket number basically also assigned, so that because that basically went very quickly. Now we have another case because it went so fast. We do another one. So let me actually go to another system. Now the other system, the other demo environment we are looking at is just go here. Yeah, this is now, let's say, assume we're having our website. I didn't build like a complete website, but you see we have a website that is working. And also here, something might go wrong. It's like completely crashing. The IIS pool is down. It really like is not responding anymore. So we go in here, somebody tries to access the site. We see the spinning and well, the website isn't available. So so basically here we have a management pack deployed as well for that. So I try to hurry it up because it's quick basically here. So we have to go to the active alerts. So we see 1 minute ago, we received this alert. It's basically instantaneous. We see that the IIS 10 website is not available basically. And we see another one that the server isn't available. It basically comes in right away after the system came down. And I'll keep refreshing because similar to the other one, I would expect that we also here get like a remediation workflow triggered in the back end. So and the first one already received the ticket numbers. This demo works perfect, Greg. Wonderful. Like it's like great. So we got a ticket number, and like after we get the ticket number, basically the remediation workflow will start already. So and we get for the second one also a ticket number, so we can track these are ServiceNow tickets. So and we'll can look at them in a moment. So if you go back here, the remediation flow should get in, and it might take a moment to stop. So to start this again, so I can go back in a moment and see if this resolves. Here in the background, so we can actually have a look what is happening on here. So let's see, this server is supposed to be running, and we see this is no fake, this is real, right? This is the system we have up on here that gives, it comes from the system and gives the alert. So let's see if the update has already been done. Yes, we see the web server is back up. We can do here a refresh, and we see it started and back running. So that was so quick. Basically, we can now take a short look at least at other use cases that we have in there. Well, we just saw that the alert also closed now again. So it's really like a closed loop. You can obviously say, well, if it stays open for a longer time, it might affect the SLA. So there's if you have a performance graph and write this to an SLA tracker and you monitor the SLA of this uptime, you can actually get this monitored as well, like a performance counter. Or if you like, you can also leave that event open and for further information, but close basically the incident. There are a couple of other events I quickly want to touch base because they're really interesting here. So in VMware, going back to VMware, we might have a cluster. So we have a cluster here available. So and we have VMs that kind of moving between the different ESXi hosts. So we have a cluster which consists of 3 hosts. And if I go in and kill like a host, so I'm going just to do this here because we have I'm going to shut down an ESXi host now. So just going in here. I need to have a reason, but the reason is like this for today. So, and now actually what will happen is like all the VMs that are running on the system here get evacuated. So these 2 are running, actually one is running and the other one isn't. So they get evacuated real time to one of the other ESXi hosts. Obviously, sometimes they're restarted. And in the case they're restarted, applications might be affected. So, so that is something you want to watch for. So it has less to do with automation. You simply can't do anything than raise an alert and say, well, the host is unavailable. But what is often is important to understand that virtual machines have been restarted within the cluster on another host. So and that's basically what it gives you as another alert. But I will not talk more about VMware. I really like to give Greg the chance to show you what happens behind the scene, how the magic is working, that the remediation is working so smoothly.
Okay, thank you, Christian. So let me share my screen. Let me share. You might have to stop sharing for me to share my screen.
Just
there we are.
it over to, yep.
Yeah, thank you. So, so what we've got is orchestrator running, and what it's doing. This is the orchestrator. For those of you who've not seen, this is the orchestrator development environment. This is the Rumble Designer where you see all of the automations, and what we've got is orchestrator monitoring operations manager, and to make sure that we've got a history about what we were seeing, what we've done, we implement a database alongside orchestrator. So what we've done is pick the alerts up and we've written them into the database. And what we've got in here, if I just hit review, is here are all the alerts that Christian just sent into the system as part of that demonstration that you saw in Operations Manager. So we had virtual machine power state alert down here, these two that just got dropped in from the first piece. And we said we went on and we created an incident ticket. And we can also see that we've done that return path, that closed loop piece, that's actually gone back and been resolved because we track all of the statuses in the system. And what is interesting, if you have a look at this, Christian was saying it was so quick because you couldn't see what's going on. So I'll show you how it works. But if you have a look with this tracking, we record when we pick up the alert, and then as each of the automations run, we update the data in the database. And the last thing that happens in this process is resolve the incident ticket. So you can see this one came in on the local time on the database as 12:57, and it was all detected by Operations Manager as resolved, fed back, and we cleared out the marked the incident ticket as resolved. What's that? A little over 9 seconds later. It can be that quick when you're working with the automation of these sort of automated remediations. What happened in those things? So we picked up the alert, it goes through applying those things, and we create the incident ticket. So we have, this is a pre-built solution that Kelverion have. We've been doing this for many years. For those of you who used to go to the old Microsoft Management Symposium, if you were around in 2014, you might have seen me get ambushed by some of my old product management colleagues at Microsoft when they said, speak to Greg, he'll tell you how to automate this. So we have had this solution for many years, used by lots of customers. We pick up these alerts, we go and create incident tickets. So today we've been using ServiceNow to create those incident tickets, but it can be other systems. We got Remedy, we can go into Salesforce, so that's Remedy Force. We can do things with BMC Helix, Atlassian Jira Service Desks, Easy Vista, many other platforms that we can go in to create service desks and other functions in. But we create that incident ticket number, forward it back to Operations Manager. And then at that point, we then look at our rules, which say how we go off and remediate different tasks and processes. And the rules all live within the database. So if we want to look at the rules, this is the rules table that tells us for different alerts, what is the severity of the incident ticket that you want to create and which team should you assign them to. And it's all based on logic around how your alerts come in with from Operations Manager. So we can do it on the alert name, information in the description, the type of alert, the monitoring object. So SQL Server DB engines, if it's production, that can go to the San Diego database team. If it's a pre-production, it goes to a team in Atlanta. If it's a very particular instance of a database, we can do it by the name of the device. We can send it to a different team altogether. In the case of our remediation, we were going, if it's a VM that's failed, that goes to the VM support team. If it's a web service, it goes to the web admins. But then we can define automation actions that happen on this system. And for VM alerts, what we have is an automation that runs that says, go and check. Operations Manager says the VM is not running. Before you do any automation, find the VM, make sure that it's definitely powered off, because you can get those depending on the when it gets picked up. So in this system, Christian set up Operations Manager to tell us almost instantaneously that that VM's gone off, but we want to just validate that it's definitely down. Depends on what your frequency. So if it's definitely off, start the VM, make sure that the virtual machine has restarted, and if so, then go update the data. If you get any errors, we can log that and report that, so we could have a separate incident tickets created going, VM went down, we went to the server to try and restart it, we can't restart it because, now that could be, as Christian said, you've had a cluster failure, the VMs have been moved across clusters, the automation will have gone in to check whether we can restart it. Maybe the cluster it's gone onto is now full and there isn't capacity to restart it. So we pick up that alert and raise that as an incident ticket. At that point, that's when you need a human being to go, all the automations work the way it should have done, all the disaster recovery is gone, but we've now got to go and clean up some of that functions. But we run that automation, and when we run the automation, it will go in and update Operations Manager to say it's done. And as I said, what happens in the background is incident tickets are created. And if I just hit a refresh in my ServiceNow system, we will get all of those incident tickets that have been spat out by the system. So these are the ones that, Christian, this is the ticket where he turned off that virtual machine. If I go in here, you can effectively see that it was raised by the automation. We assigned it to the VM support team. Details that came in from the NiCE management pack as to the virtual machine, the name, the fact it's powered off, which host it's on. Automation did the remediation. Was it definitely off? Yes, the power state is off. We ran some remediation, restart the VM, confirmed it's restarted. So we've got all of that, the initial information that came in from the Operations Manager alert, the remediation. And if I scroll down, we can actually see in ServiceNow as part of the tracking, you have an SLA tracker. And for a priority 3 fault, which is what it was considered to be, we have a 5-day SLA. Well, actually, the ticket was raised at 15:34 and it resolved at 15:34 and 52 seconds. Ultimately, that end-to-end monitoring with Operations Manager and the automation resolved the issues and updated the incident ticket in that closed loop process within 52 seconds.
Whoa, that's amazing.
So that's how we can do it. And the Operations Manager, this sort of alerting and monitoring is one of the solutions that we can run within the automation. We can do things with virtual machines, automated patching, CMDB population. So if you've got a service desk and it's got none of the configuration data in it, well, hey, you've got Operations Manager. If you're monitoring it, you know about all the asset information. If you've got Config Manager and you're patching it, you know about asset management in there. You might have other tools that you can pull information. So VMware, with the management pack, there'll be information that NiCE has got in their monitoring information about ESX hosts, clusters, data pools. All of that information can be extracted and you can use the automation to push that into your service desk CMDB. So none of this manual population or spending a lot of money on a very expensive asset discovery engine that then gives you different results to what you see in your monitoring tools. So the world is your oyster.
Yep. So Greg, anything else to add?
No. So, I should pass this back to you.
I just would pick it back and share back the slides for now.
Absolutely. Yep.
So see, get the right screen here. Okay, waiting for screen. There we go. So we've seen the theory and everything in live in action for now. So, and we just want to wrap this up before we get to the Q&A section. So feel free already to add some questions. I see the first question came in already. So, but before we go into the questions, let's do a quick summary. So everything basically starts with SCOM and the management pack, really like bringing everything together, like monitoring the workloads. And we are aware that there is the option, of course, that there are task and automatic actions in SCOM, but they're really limited to like a service restart. So, but for example, when we did the IIS restart, there's typically the requirement to do them in a certain order. That's already out of scope for SCOM. So that's where you need the automatic solution. So but the management pack we provide are only for monitoring. So our philosophy is we have read-only. All the management packs come as read-only management packs. So we actually cannot automate, because automate does changes to the system, is doing something to the systems, while the management packs are read-only. So we don't have, when we ship management packs and they have a task in there, it's only for like starting the agent or configuration, but nothing doing with the application. Like for example, if you have Oracle, you can restart Oracle with the task, but that's not something that is part of our management packs, because it's something that carefully needs to be considered, because eventually you want to restart the application or stop the application first before you restart the Oracle database. So there's some dependencies. So it would be completely wrong to just like restart a database like out of nowhere and you don't know what happens to the application. So the management packs, in a sense, basically cover like a wide range, like all the third-party workloads that you might have out there. There are more management packs out in our portfolio. We do offer custom management packs, so that's basically our portfolio. And then we've got the seamless integration, System Center Orchestrator and Operations Manager. And well, then you want to continue with the summary, Greg, on the integration packs, please?
Absolutely. So as you can see, we've got a huge range of integrations that allow you to then take the whole end-to-end process from the alert being detected and then use the automation to run those more complicated diagnostics and remediation functions that you need to do to bring that application online. So as Christian said, if you've got something like our Oracle database off, there are a number of steps and checks that you need to do before you can restart it. That's where Orchestrator can run that enhanced remediation, and you want to be able to tie into some of these enterprise monitoring tools to be able to do more functions and steps. And that's where we can use Orchestrator with that breadth of integration packs to align nicely with what you're monitoring to be able to then run remediation steps on them. So anything you can monitor with VMware, that we can run commands to be able to remediate, diagnose, and then remediate issues that might happen in your virtual the VMware estate. The same with your cloud, with your Office 365. Christian is managing it, but what about provisioning users in Office 365? Restart, moving users between groups, giving them Teams access, onboarding them, offboarding them. So all of those sort of functions that you can do. If you can do it in Office 365, you can monitor it, or we can automate the management and provisioning of those things, both Office 365, anything in Azure, other clouds like Amazon EC2, and similar. So we've got integrations to allow you to actually tie into that enterprise management and not only monitor it, but automatically diagnose and remediate things, and then provision and deprovision into those environments as well, both users and physical infrastructure. So what we've got, ultimately, is that key is that best in class return on investment, capitalizing on your investment in System Center.
That's, I can just contribute. That's the same why customers come to us, because they have a deployment of System Center which they invested and have on there. And the easiest way to add like an Oracle environment, like if you have Oracle Standard Edition, you don't have access to Cloud Control or OEM, which is the database tool basically for that. You would need to pay like really a lot of amount extra for doing that, or establish a separate monitoring tool. So why don't you just take that in what you have with an additional management pack? And same applies then here to automation. So, and as it's all comes with one license in the System Center environment. So this is the key for success. Good. So I think we've got a couple of questions. So well, let me ask Rachel. Are there any questions?
Yeah, there certainly are. We've got a couple of questions that have come in, so please do keep them coming. If there's something that you want to ask our two experts today, we'd be happy to put them to them. So first question I've got in is, can I provision VMs in vSphere?
Can I provision? Well, that probably goes to you, Greg.
Probably to Greg.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'll put them. So yes, as we've seen with the monitoring and the remediation functions, we can tie into virtual machines, VMware to restart VMs. We can certainly provision our integration pack to VMware allows us to provision virtual machines, both from standard templates and other things. You can build custom VMs as well, so you can take standard templates. You could build, for example, a Windows Server 2022 template, and the nice thing with the automation is you haven't got to configure that to be, say, a number of CPUs and a certain amount of memory within those templates, which you have to do normally. We can actually dynamically provision virtual machines from a known template by being able to push into it. Right, here's your standard Windows Server, and then we can put 4 CPUs or 16 gig and 16 gig of memory or 64 gig of memory, depending on the inputs that we get from the end user, from the service request in a service desk, or from our self-service portal. So we can provision virtual machines. We can deprovision virtual machines. Very critical if you're running test and dev. People forget to turn them off and they leave them burning, taking up CPU and memory on your platforms. So deprovision virtual machines.
Well, and there are obviously things like, for example, snapshots, right? You know, if you're doing snapshots, they're regularly forgotten. That's why one of our key monitors is like alert if a snapshot is growing and around for a month or two. And it's like, just nobody cared about snapshots. Like, and then you want to probably delete that snapshot. So that would be also, I guess, something
absolutely.
That would be in your
we can do. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that is really key and great to do. So also, I guess if you can change VMs, like there's an alert coming out, like if a VM has like overload of CPU, like might make sense to add a CPU. So and that's again something that is completely out of the scope of the management pack and SCOM as well. So great extension.
Yep. Absolutely.
Great stuff. Thank you. We've got another question as well. Did you guys do a monitoring and automation project together? What were the requirements? What was the outcome?
Well, let me pick this one because I actually come this week just from a client I visited on site, which isn't that usual, but it was in Austria, and they actually have there's a NiCE client and they have Kelverion integration packs as well. So it's a client that from the financial industry that integrate and use System Center very heavily in various terms. And so requirements were really like Greg, you showed in the beginning, like bringing many things together, right? So you have Remedy, you have System Center, you have like, and let's be honest, System Center Operations Manager is not always the only monitoring tool. You might have another one, open source tool, or like another one from another vendor. Like, how do you keep the overview and bring everything together? Also, in that case, Scorch is doing that work and bringing everything together in one central place. And from there, you have a view on your entire infrastructure. So, and that's really neat. And it's charming, the whole project, to see that. So the outcome in the end is like, they have one view on everything with Scorch and the integration packs, and on the SCOM side, which covers the entire monitoring. So I think very, very good deployment there. I'm not sure that was the one I came across, but I guess Greg, when you see SCOM as well there.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've done work. Yes, absolutely. You know, we've done work with same very similar use case for customers where, you know, they have operations manager and but they also had SolarWinds, Cisco Prime, and they wanted to actually consolidate all that in. So we're using Orchestrator to bring detect alerts at SolarWinds and Cisco Prime, and then create them in Operations Manager so that you have a single view. And then we go off and create incident tickets from the Operations Manager alerts. So you've got that single view coming in, but we're bringing in the context for those alerts, because obviously from something like SolarWinds or Cisco Prime, When you push them into Operations Manager, it doesn't know what the end device was because it's not monitoring it. So we're able to enrich the alert that goes in and say, it came from SolarWinds, it was this device had this issue. So you get a context-sensitive description in Operations Manager about what the alert was. So you have that whole manager of managers capability.
Great stuff. Probably got time for one more question. So if an ESXi server fails, what type of alerts are provided from monitoring on VMs that fail in the ESXi cluster?
Yes, let me take that quickly because we're running up on time. So basically, this is a key use case, right? Because it's a nightmare if you're in the middle of night and ESX cluster goes down. This happens because if it's a hardware failure, the cluster goes, the host goes down. Typically, you have like more in a host in a cluster. So then in that case, we alert the cluster's the cluster's affected, the host is gone away. But what happens to the VMs that ran on that cluster on this ESX host that's gone? And that's the key use case, because let's say if there are 5 or 10 VMs running, these 10 VMs need to go somewhere and they move to another host, and we need to know if that host is healthy. Typically, the rebalancing takes care of that, but then all the hosts run quite hot. And you want to know if they got restarted on the other host. That was basically also the event I shown before. So there's the event that basically the cluster is affected with its state, the host is gone, and if all the VMs could be restarted on the host and could kind of remediate the situation or give like a healthy state out of this. Or if there's a problem restarting one of the VMs, it will also then create an alert that what we have seen, basically a VM that should be running is currently not running and can get escalated.
Great, thank you.
I think we've just came up to time. So I think with that, we can close this. Greg, I'll leave it for you to close. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much then, Chris. And so, yeah, thank you everybody for joining, and hope to speak to you again on another webinar. If you've got any other questions for Christian or myself, you can contact us at NiCE or Kelverion and find more information out from our websites. Thank you very much, everybody. Goodbye.